Hi, this is Curt, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Okay, let's go to Ohio. This is really interesting. There's a conflicting fact, which is a huge conflicting fact I noticed. But we have a Columbus firefighter who's charged with vehicular homicide. Right, this for causing allegedly the death of somebody who rear-ended him. Now, the firefighter was heading down the highway, was in the right lane. I'll give you the factual issue that I saw between the news report and the written report, but the firefighter driving engine in a, I assume 55 or 65 mile an hour highway was going 24 miles an hour, goes over 1 to 2 lanes to turn around. The fact that I'm not sure is, and don't say anything yet because I want to put one more fact in, is whether he had his lights and sirens on. The news report said he did. That's what's interesting. I watched it 3 times to make sure I heard it right. It was reported on the video you linked to that he in fact did have his lights and sirens on. Obviously, that's a huge issue.
Absolutely. I think that's the case right there. If he had his lights and siren on, that's an entirely different case.
Yeah, the news says he did. You said he didn't. I'm assuming he didn't.
The written article said he didn't, and I looked for that. I must have missed it in the video. So, but that's obviously a huge issue. And if his lights and siren was on, there's no reason why he should be charged here. I can't. I wouldn't understand that. But the write-up said he did not have them on.
Yeah, so that's where I was a little confused. I assume he didn't, but I don't want to make any assumptions. In any event, a guy coming up 74 miles an hour, so either 20 or 10, miles an hour over the speed limit. I don't know what the speed was, but rear ends the engine. So I personally don't care how slow, granted it's dangerous, right? How slow the fire engine was going, somebody rear-ended him. Now, if he sideswiped him as he comes over, I would have an easier time with this. I personally am having a hard time with, look, was he negligent? Sure. But was he criminally negligent? I'm having a hard time with that fact. But in any event, the driver was killed. And, it's hard to understand. Yes, he has his warning lights off, which is clearly negligent. I just don't get criminal out of it. I don't know. And he's a 25-year-old driver.
Point is, he's on the highway, but he's trying to apparently get to a left lane turnaround, an emergency turnaround to return back from the direction that he started from. And I think you're absolutely right. If he's got his lights on now, especially, you could argue here a point. Was he responding to an alarm with his lights on? Okay. What if he wasn't? What if he just turned them on? And this is where the state laws are a little bit ambiguous about, can we use our lights and siren when we're not responding, or is it only when we're responding? So the state laws in each jurisdiction are slightly different. And I haven't researched Ohio's laws on that, but.
Yeah, and it seems to me if he was, the way I think of this, the way it's described, and this may not be what happened, it sounds like he's turning around in the median to go the other way on the highway,
exactly,
in a U-turn, no U-turn lane that's meant for cops.
Or emergency vehicles only, right?
Yeah, but here, are they an emergency vehicle? Was he allowed to use that? If he's not going to an emergency, was it safe and prudent?
I don't know, is a police car an emergency vehicle when they're setting up to do a radar trap?
Yeah, right. All good questions, but those U-turn lanes are meant for them, whether they're meant for, and the fire truck and didn't even need to do that. Was it so dangerous? But again, to me, that's a negligence issue. Sure, he appears to be negligent, but criminally negligent. Just because someone died doesn't make our acts worse. And we'll talk about that when we talk about some of the wildfire stuff coming up. But anyway, it's a very interesting case. But I think especially if you're a first or you're a new user, a viewer, this is not unique.
Mhm.
You know, we've covered 3 or so, one of them kept coming up, but
Mm-hmm.
we've covered 3 or so incidents, and that's only because you're just choosing new ones,
Yeah,
right?
I would bet about at least 10 to 12 a year. Firefighters are charged with some sort of homicide related charge related to either apparatus accident or something in the nature that leads to a fatality.
Yeah, and I think
we do see
people
it.
driving have to understand
Mhm.
that that driving an emergency vehicle, especially in some states, can come with it, right? A criminal sentence. So you end somebody else's life, the justice system may quote unquote end yours.
Mhm.
So let's, you know, people drive with the due regard for the caution of others. And, you know, I'm not saying don't speed, but and things like that. I'm just saying, you know, you don't take risks when you don't need to take risks. Or, you know, and the level of risks is, I don't know, maybe per call, but in any event, people need to drive understanding that they could face criminal charges.
Yeah. And
Okay,
this isn't unique. It does happen,
right.
and we do see it. So
yeah, and in fact, there's almost nothing unique on this show anymore. In some variation,
there's some
right?
variations, you know. There's some.
There's just so many things that happen. The routine.